Dear students, அனைவருக்கும் வணக்கம், வந்தனம், நமஸ்காரம். மீண்டும் உங்களை சந்திப்பதில் மற்றற்ற மகிழ்ச்சி. Today I'd like to give a brief idea, a brief introduction about sexual reproduction. Sexual reproduction அப்படினாலே உங்களுக்கு தெரியும். Sexual reproduction means the reproduction involves gametic fusion. Gametic fusion இருந்தால் அது sexual reproduction சொல்லுவோம். Male gamete நோ தருப்பா, female gamete நோ தருப்பா, ரெண்டு பேரும் சேர்ந்து zygote form ஆகும். So the reproduction involves the union of gametes or gametic fusion is said to be sexual reproduction. And this sexual reproduction responsible for variation in organisms. So this is mainly responsible for variation. வேறுபாட்டிற்கு காரணம் ஐடென்டிக்கல் ட்வின் தவிர பாக்கி யாரும் ஒரே மாதிரி இருக்கிறதுக்கான பாசிபிலிட்டி இல்லை. அப்ப ஏசெக்சுவல்னா என்ன சார்? The reproduction doesn't involve gametic fusion or without gametic fusion. Gametic fusion இல்லாத reproduction asexual னு சொல்லுவோம். இங்க gametic fusion இருக்கும் and it is responsible for variation. Asexual reproduction responsible for the production of clones, genetically similar individuals. Asexual எடுத்துட்டோம்னா அங்க ஃபார்ம் ஆவா எல்லாரும் ஒரே மாதிரியே இருப்பா, genetically similar, genetically identical, genetically uniform plant populations are formed. அவால clone சொல்லுவோம். இங்க அது மாதிரி இருக்காது. It offers variation. ஆனா உங்களுக்கு முக்கியமா தெரிய வேண்டியது the flower. இத பத்தி உனக்கு ஐடியா தரப்பா. இதை வச்சுன்னா உனக்கு புக்ல செக்ஷுவல் ஸ்டார்ட் ஆயிருக்கும். Flower is a modified condensed shoot meant for reproduction, or it is a specialized structure adapted for reproduction. Modified condensed shoot meant for reproduction or specialized structure adapted for reproduction. reproductionக்காக ஸ்டெம் தான் ஃப்ளவரா மாறி இருக்கா அப்படின்னு சொல்லுவோம். கிளியர்? அப்ப ஃப்ளவர்ல லீவ்ஸ் இருக்கும். Calyx, union of sepals, the green colored part. Corolla, union of petals, the colored part. ANDROECIUM, the union of stamens, male reproductive part. GYNOECIUM, the female reproductive part formed by union of carpels. Union of sepals, calyx. Union of petals, corolla. Union of stamens, ANDROECIUM. Union of carpels, gynoecium. இவால floral leaf னு சொல்லுவோம். ஏன் floral leaf சொல்றானா, they are all modified leaves. Leaf னா calyx, corolla, androecium, gynoecium மாறி இருக்குன்னு சொல்லுவோம். Calyx, the main function of the green colored portion, the main function of calyx is to protect the flower in the bud stage. மொட்டா இருக்கிறப்ப பூவை பாதுகாப்பா. Corolla, the colored part, attract the insects for cross-pollination. You know, pollination, transfer of pollen grain from anther lobe to the stigma of the carpel is said to be pollination. This corolla attract the insects for cross-pollination, and it also possesses the plastid, chromoplastid. பச்சை கலரா இருந்தா chloroplastid சொல்லுவோம். Colored அப்படின்னா they possesses chromoplastids. Androecium, the male reproductive part, produce pollen grains or microspores. Gynoecium, the female part, female reproductive part with ovule and egg. Among the four floral leaves, calyx and corolla are not directly involved in pollination and fertilization. So these two structures are called non-essential parts. இவ்வாறு ரெண்டு பேரும் direct pollination லையோ fertilization லையோ participate பண்ண மாட்டாங்க. So non-essential parts அப்படின்னு சொல்லுவோம். Androecium and gynoecium are directly involved in pollination and fertilization. So these two structures are known as the essential parts of the flower. But these two non-essential, these two essential. The stalk of the flower is said to be pedicel, and the tip of the pedicel is said to be the thalamus or receptacle or a torus on which the floral leaves are arranged. The tip of the pedicel is said to be the thalamus or a receptacle or a torus on which the floral leaves are arranged. இந்த மலர் காம்பு இருக்கு பாருங்க, அதோட டிப்புக்கு பேர் தான் பூத்தலம்னு தமிழ்ல சொல்லுவோம். அதுதான் தலாமஸ்னு சொல்லுவோம். அங்கதான் கேலக்ஸ், கொரோலா, ஆண்ட்ரோசியம், கைனோசியம் இருப்பான். இது பேஸ். A flower with all the floral parts, complete flower. Flower with calyx, corolla, androecium and gynoecium, all the floral leaves are present in a flower, then it is known as complete flower. Any one of the floral leaves is absent, we are calling it as incomplete. நாலுமே இருந்தா அவளுக்கு complete. Any one of the floral leaf is absent, we are calling it as incomplete flower. And you should know the two terms important for a flower. One is the bisexual flower, living standard. Another is the unisexual flower. Define a bisexual and unisexual flower. This is a symbol for bisexual flower. This is a symbol for unisexual flower. Flower with androecium and gynoecium. Flower with androecium and gynoecium are the male and the female reproductive part present in the same flower. We are calling it as bisexual flower, also known as the complete flower. Flower with either androecium or gynoecium, we are calling it as unisexual flower. Only androecium is present. The male flower are staminate flower. Androecium mattum irundha male flower சொல்லுவா, இன்னொரு term staminate னு பேர். The flower with only gynoecium is said to be the pistillate flower or female flower னு பேர். So flower with androecium and gynoecium, bisexual flower, the complete flower. Flower with either androecium or gynoecium, unisexual flower. Only androecium is present, staminate flower. Only gynoecium is present, we are calling it as pistillate flower or female flower. Staminate abina male flower, pistillate means the female flower. So these basic things that you should remember regarding a flower. Then I like to give a brief idea regarding this androecium and gynoecium. Dear putties, now I like to give a brief idea regarding the male reproductive part, androecium. Androecium, the male reproductive part, formed by the union of stamens. Male reproductive part, androecium, it is collectively known as androecium. The individual segment is said to be stamen. So union of stamen, androecium. Stamen, the male reproductive part, with three parts, namely the filament. Second is the connective. And the third is the anther lobe. Androecium, the male reproductive part, formed by the union of stamens. And each stamen with the three parts, namely, number one, the filament, number two, the connective, number three, the anther. Inside the anther, if you take the cross section of the anther, you find a butterfly-shaped structure. Inside the anther, pollen sacs are present, where the pollen grains or microspores are found. This is the cross section of the anther. In the anther cross section, this only a small bag. The bag is said to be pollen sac. Inside the pollen sac, the pollen grains are found. So pollen sac, inside the pollen sac, microspore mother cells are present. The microspore mother cells undergo meiotic cell division and form haploid microspores. This microspores or pollen grains form. The process of development of microspore from the microspore mother cell in the pollen sac or microsporangia is said to be microsporogenesis. The development of microspore or pollen grain from the microspore mother cell after meiotic cell division in the pollen sac or microsporangia is said to be microsporogenesis. Simple radhango. In the anther ulla microspore or pollen grain form ஆகக்கூடிய process க்கு microsporogenesis. இது structure தனியா நம்ம அப்புறம் பார்ப்போம். பேஸ் மட்டும் சொல்லிடுறேன். Okay, other names there. The stamen is also known as the microsporophyll. The anther is also known as microsporangial sorus. Sorus na clusters. The pollen sac is also known as the microsporangia. And the pollen grains, also known as the microspores or microspore. Stamen or microsporophyll, anther or microsporangial sorus, pollen sac or microsporangia, and pollen grains are the microspores in the term. So in the stamen, microsporophyll challuva, anther microsporangial sorus challuva, pollen sac or microsporangium challuva. Inside this microspores that form the microspores, the pollen grains appdi challuva. So in the term konjam kuttima neenga vechukonu. Dear cuties, this is the male reproductive part. Next I come to the female reproductive part, the gynoecium. The female reproductive part, the gynoecium, formed by the union of carpels. And this individual segment in a gynoecium is said to be carpel. And each carpel with 3 parts, namely the ovary, the style, and the stigma. Inside the ovary, the ovules are present. This is ovary. Inside the ovary, ovules are present. These are small ball-like structures are called the ovules. After fertilization, this ovary is converted into fruit and the ovules are converted into seeds. After fertilization, this ovule is converted into seed. The ovary is converted into fruit. Clear? This carpel is also known as megasporophyll. Carpel also known as the megasporophyll. And the ovule is also known as the megasporangium. Other names now, stamen or microsporophyll, anther or microsporangial sorus, pollen sac or microsporangia, pollen grains or microspores. The carpel or megasporophyll and the ovule or the megasporangium. Inside the ovule, megaspores are present. From the megaspore, the female gametophyte is formed. Megaspore develops into female gametophyte. Another egg group. Okay. அடுத்தது என்ன தெரிஞ்சுக்கணும்? இதான் கார்பலோட ஸ்ட்ரக்சர். அடுத்தது நடக்கிறது basic pollination ஒரு கான்செப்ட் நடக்கும். Transfer of pollen grain from anther lobe to the stigma of the carpel is said to be pollination. இங்கேந்து pollen grain பறந்து வந்து இவ மேல உட்கார்ந்து பார்ப்போம். அதுக்கு பேரு pollination பேரு. ஒவ்வொன்றை பத்தி தனித்தனியா பார்க்க போறோம். Today I like to give only a brief introduction about all those things you are going to study in the first chapter. So transfer of pollen grain from anther lobe to the stigma of the carpel is said to be pollination. It may be self or cross pollination. Self na theriyum pollen grain adhe flower la irukka stigma ku poradhu. Cross na adhe plant la irukka innor flower ku polam or another plant la irukka flower ku polam of the same species. In the pollination முடிஞ்ச அப்புறம் என்ன ஆகும்னா this pollen grain will germinate molecule. And then the ovule இருக்கு பாருங்களே, இந்த ovule உள்ள female gametophyte னு இருக்கும். அந்த இடத்துல தான் எக்னு ஒரு ஸ்ட்ரக்சர் இருக்கும். எல்லாம் தனியா நம்ம பார்ப்போம். This thing is very important. ஏன்னா female gametophyte embryo sac னு சொல்லுவா. இதுல எக் இருக்கும். இந்த இடத்துல secondary nucleus னு ஒன்று இருக்கும். இப்படி pollen grain முளைக்கிறா பார்த்தியோம்னோ, from a single pollen grain, 2 male gametes is formed. இவாள்கிட்ட ரெண்டு மேல் கேமெட் ஃபார்ம் ஆகும். So pollination முடிஞ்ச அப்புறம் it is followed by fertilization. In angiospermous plants, in higher plants, double fertilization takes place. ஏன்னா ரெண்டு மேல் கேமெட் ஃபார்ம் ஆகிறதுனால ரெண்டு பேர் இங்க இன்வால்வ் ஆகும். One male gamete fuses with the egg to form diploid zygote. ஒரு மேல் கேமெட் இந்த எக்கோட சேருவா, it will become zygote and it is converted into embryo, radicle, plumule and cotyledons படிச்சிருக்கீங்க பாருங்களே, அந்த embryo மாதிரி. Another male gamete fuses with a secondary nucleus to form triploid endosperm. Primary endosperm nucleus னு வரும், அது வேண்டாம், endosperm அப்படினா. So one egg மாறும், the egg is converted into one zygote மாறும், zygote is converted into embryo. And the embryo க்கு food வேணும், somebody else supplying nutrients to the embryo. அப்ப இந்த secondary nucleus ஓட இன்னொரு male gamete சேரும். One male gamete fuses with the egg to form diploid zygote. The zygote develops into an embryo. Another male gamete fuses with the secondary nucleus to form triploid endosperm. To form triploid endosperm. Endosperm is the nutritive tissue for the developing embryo. இதுதான் இந்த embryoக்கு அப்புறம் சாப்பாட்டை தருவோம். So the fertilization is said to be double fertilization அப்படின்னு சொல்லுவோம். அந்த வார்த்தையை ஞாபகம் வச்சுக்கோ. இதெல்லாம் பத்தி டீடைல்டா நம்ம தனித்தனியா பார்ப்போம். இப்ப பேசிக் ஐடியா மட்டும். அப்ப sexual reproduction in flowering plantsல first flower என்ன? The modified condensed shoot. What are the floral parts present or floral leaves are present? Calyx, Corolla, ANDROECIUM, GYNOECIUM. Calyx and Corolla are the non-essential parts. ANDROECIUM and GYNOECIUM are the essential parts because they are directly involved in pollination and fertilization. The structure of stamen, ANDROECIUM, the male reproductive part. The structure of carpel, the female reproductive part to GYNOECIUM. Then it followed by pollination, transfer of pollen grains and fertilization, then fruit is formed. இத பத்தி தான் நம்ம பார்த்துட்டு இருக்கோம்.